virtual study room session scheduled right here. So I can actually just go ahead and click right through. So once you click on that link, you're brought into the Brainfuse whiteboard right here. And I wanted to show you guys a brief demonstration of the whiteboard itself. And in this case, this whiteboard is almost exactly the same as the student whiteboard. There are a few key differences in this case, and for some further detailed information, you will also be receiving a tutor guide PDF that'll be included with all the tutor match information sent to your school. In this case, it goes into much more granular detail of all of the services available through the Brainfuse whiteboard, but for today, I just wanted to show you guys some of the options available to you. And of course, you can always schedule a meet session with a dummy account and enter it yourself at any time and just practice using the whiteboard for yourself. It's totally available to you anytime. And so in this case, this is just the same as what a student would see. Again, with a few key differences. In this case, I just want to point out kind of the basics. So over here, you'll see the chat area. So this is where you're able to send messages to those who are in the session with you. In this case, with students in a tutoring session, you'll also see this chat area is virtually identical. So you can type in any message and hit enter to send. Over on the left-hand side, though, is the actual whiteboard proper. So using the whiteboard's tools that you see just along the bottom down here, you'll be able to do things like draw using the sort of free-handed drawing tool selected by default. There's also the eraser tool, which will let you kind of correct any small errors on the page if you'd like to. And skipping along the line just a bit, we also have an undo function, so that'll undo any previous action taken on the whiteboard itself. And we also have the clear whiteboard button as well. So the clear whiteboard button will remove any content that you've included on the whiteboard, but it won't remove any of the chat area. That'll actually remain throughout the duration of the session in full. And so, in this case, in addition to that, we have a text tool. This, of course, allows you to begin typing on the Brainfuse whiteboard. There's no limit to wherever you might like to do that. That's entirely up to you for a session. In addition to that, once you've opened up the text tool, you are also able to copy and paste text or images right onto the Brainfuse whiteboard as well. You can do this using keyboard shortcuts as you might normally, Control-V or Command-V. Or you can also use the paste text icon down here, which functions the same for images as well. So you can actually copy and paste anything you'd like to on the whiteboard if that makes things easier. In addition to that, once you've opened up the text tool, you'll see a few more options appear, including the math equation editor. So back in the very early days of Brainfuse, tutors and students both used to have to use the free-handed drawing tool to put up some of the more complex equations that they might run across. Those days are now very long behind us. In this case, any equations you might like to put onto the whiteboard, you can feel free to do so by entering in the equation right here, and then going on right ahead to do so. Once you click on the check mark here, it'll appear just up here. And as I say on every webinar, I do apologize if that equation makes no sense. I was an English major. That'll probably explain why. In any event, moving on from there, you'll also notice that we have the superscript and subscript tools available here. So in this case, if any of your users or tutors might like to change the text that they're writing in, the options exist right there. In addition to that, the text icon over here for picking a font will allow you to change the text that you're writing in font, style, and size. So in this case, let's say both you and the student are working on the whiteboard together using text to try and kind of correct a paragraph. You can actually change the font style of your writing to distinguish your writing from a student. So this way, it just becomes easily visually distinguishable for the user accessing the whiteboard in this case. In addition to that, we also have scientific symbols available on this option. You can also, of course, drag and drop a line onto the whiteboard by using the line tool selected right here. There's also a shapes tool as well. And using the shapes tool, just like with the line tool, you can drag and drop any number of items onto the whiteboard, including circles, squares, square root symbols. There's even the option to place number graphs on the whiteboard if you'd like to. So you can actually just place them right onto the whiteboard and work in problems using a number graph or number line, whatever you might like to in this case. And both the number graph and number line can be adjusted, so you can change the minimums, maximums, and interval modes of either axis of the graph or the single axis of the line. Those options appear when you select them and drag and drop them right up to the screen. In addition to that, you can also change the color of anything that you place on the whiteboard. So using the color wheel that you see here, you'll be able to change the color of any shapes that you include, any texts that you write, any equations you put up on the whiteboard, whatever you might like to. Again, our tutors tend to do this by default. This way they can distinguish their own markings and work on the whiteboard from anything a student might happen to be including on the whiteboard. This way, a student doesn't become overwhelmed or confused with what might have been written by whom on the whiteboard. In addition to that, you're also able to, of course, send files to any users you access through TutorMatch. So in this case, you can do that by going over to the chat area over here and clicking on the file upload paperclip over here. So from here, you can upload a file directly from your computer or device, whatever you're working from directly, or you can do it from the cloud path, which we mentioned just a few moments ago, included under the account features for both users and tutors. So you can send files directly from your cloud pack. You save it to there, and you can upload it right into a live tutoring session anytime. In addition to that, Meet virtual study room sessions are also equipped with audio. So if you'd like to have this conference with multiple users and to enable audio, then simply clicking on the audio icon up here will allow you to do this. Audio comes in a few different options. You can use your computer microphone if you'd like to, or alternately, you can actually have the system either call you directly from a toll-free conference line. You can enter in your phone number. This will not be saved, by the way. This is just for the conference line itself. It'll be deleted and is not sent to Brainfuse at any point. It'll be deleted once the session itself is complete. So you can either enter in your phone number to have a toll-free conference system call you, or alternately, you can simply call into the conference system itself. That option also exists under the audio options in this case. And so lastly, in addition to all of this, there are a number of different options that are available for tutors that are not available for students in particular. And in this case, you'll actually largely find them included under the area labeled public over here, and by clicking on the three dots. In this case, you can actually take a screenshot of the whiteboard that you're taking place in and send it right off to a user. So by clicking send screenshot and following the instructions, you can actually send what you're seeing on the whiteboard right to a user. If they happen to be explaining that they're having some technical difficulties and can't see what you're showing them, you can send a screenshot straight from there. You can also save the whiteboard data. This would save a video playback of the whiteboard itself that you can save right to your device. In addition to that, you can also actually do desktop sharing with your participants in the study. So in this case, if you'd like to, you can actually show your screen as you're working through something, which we found in this case works really well with programming tutors and so on. And so there's a process to do once you've started this, and that is in the tutor guide for reference if you'd like to see how to do that. But in this case, if you would like to initiate desktop sharing, you can do so through this area in particular and assist your students straight through there. Oh, and in addition, just so you guys can see it, by clicking on this arrow over here, you'll see all the participants in a session. In this case, of course, in a live session through TutorMatch, that would simply be the two participants, the tutor and the student. But for a Meet virtual study room session, this could, of course, be a number of different participants. So you can actually see each of them individually included right here, if you'd like to.